All right.
That was so funny and it just cut you off, and I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind. I guess I won't start it."
So my computer finally started it then?
Yeah, I was just about to, and then you disappeared, and I was like, "Okay, never mind."
Okay. And then it took forever for it to finally hit the live button, but we did it. Hi, Sonia. Sonia's number one.
Dude, so I'm grateful. Hi, Sonia. I'll give you not a star. You can have a star. um, whatchamacallit, trophy. But I finally got this phone. You know that I found out these fucking phones because they want to have you pay for everything. This motherfucker didn't come with the charger. Like
What?
they give you a cord, but it's a Type C. So like it's Type C on both sides. So like you don't have the regular
Oh yeah,
USB back. It's
yeah.
a Type C port. And I was like, "Wait, what?" So I don't have a brick to put it in the wall. I have to use my laptop or a wireless charger, which thankfully I have a wireless charger because I bought it for my old phone and it wasn't compatible, so it never worked. So my husband found it in the closet and it charges this phone, thankfully. But now we only have one charger unless you use the laptop. But I was like, "Wait, what? It doesn't come with the fucking charger?" Because I was looking everywhere for a brick, and they were like, "Yeah, you gotta buy it." And it doesn't come with fucking headphones. I have to freaking like the headphones that my husband has for his old phone, they're not compatible with this phone.
Of
And I
course.
was like, "Wait, what?" So that sucks. Now he has to get new headphones, and I have to get new headphones. I hope these ones might work with it. I haven't tried it, but
Hmm.
the ones that we had don't work with this one. Our Motorola doesn't work with Samsung. Or no, this is Galaxy. This is a Google Pixel. I don't know if that's Samsung.
That's
No.
Google. That's
Oh, that's
yeah.
Google. Oh, so that's Samsung Galaxy. That's what it is. And Google Pixel. I don't know. I'm learning this shit. I had a Motorola, so
We'll give everyone a few minutes to file in. No one's used to us being on time.
I know. That's why I was like, we only have 3 people, dude. They're like, what the hell? It's 5:03. We always show up on time when John's here. You notice that? We're
Yeah,
very on time.
yeah. Because
You're not
otherwise
here,
we'll get
John.
stuck in the back talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, you help us be on time.
Hey, you know
Yes.
what? I'm all
Thank
right with
you.
I
How's everybody doing?
What the frick is our podcast?
Oh, yeah. I think I need to do the sharing and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find our thing because
Yeah, I didn't do that.
it still wasn't showing us. You guys like and share your things and share your screenshots, tag your people in the group for your
For the
in
giveaway.
yeah, I'll say for your present, but for the giveaway. What the hell? Ah, damn.
Alright, there we go. Tagged both of your pages, John.
it. Yep. Thank you.
There we go. Who's ready for
Oh
some
my
help?
god, we're at 937 followers. Thank you, everybody. We love you.
We're growing.
I know. I just keep pressing invite when it'll let us know, and I'll hop on our thing, and I'll be like, invite everybody that's like this post.
You know,
Invite everybody.
I mean, I don't know if I feel like, before when I've been here, there've been a lot more people, and I'm just like, am I just not drawing them in anymore?
They're just not used to us being on time. Give them a few minutes. They'll be here.
Yeah, they're like, wait, it's not 5:30. We'll show up around like 5:18, 5:30. We're just like, that's on
Usually
time
it's
to us.
about 15 after.
Yeah, yeah. We'll happen to be talking, and we'll be like, oh fuck, it's 15 after. We should start. We don't know how we talk so much, but we do actually.
Yeah. ADHD.
Mhm.
It happens. We should just title this like the ADHD show.
Oh my god, right?
I freaked out. I freaked out some of my work colleagues today because we were doing a presentation for like literally about 500 people online,
Oh my
and
god.
they were all like freaking out because they don't. And I mean, I present all the time, so I'm like, whatever. I don't even care. So they were like, they're the idea was that I was trying to make them like, I don't know, trying to make them laugh a little bit so they'd like chill out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been practicing my accent all week for this. And they looked at me and they were like, you what? And I was like, yeah, I've been practicing all week. I'm like, let me show you. I'm like, yes, once again, we have prepared the world to fight against tyranny. And they
Dr.
were all just
Evil?
like, would you laugh just a little?
Listen up, guys.
Right.
It can be a little nerve-wracking getting on, and knowing that so many people are watching you. But I don't know. We kind of took to it pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. Hi, Holly.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good support, though. So
We really, really do.
my kitty's
love
gonna
our
cry until I
viewers.
let her in.
They're freaking amazing.
Lyra wanted in so badly, and then she jumped straight up on the desk to just show you guys she's here and then take off. She's
Look at
like,
my
don't
butt,
forget
guys. Say
this,
bye.
this show is.
Hi, Deidre. Hi, Lori. Hi, everybody.
You're seeing them on your phone. I'm like, I don't see any comments like from the.
No, it tells me who's watching.
Okay.
And Deidre's my friend, so I don't know if this is her first time seeing, but it's telling me that she's watching. So, hi, girl.
You're snooping.
You guys, if you want to support Native American business, she makes the most fireest fucking handmade earrings, okay? So if you want to support a business, support her. She is amazing. Deidre has made me so many murdered and missing indigenous women earrings, but she is so talented. She beaded me unicorn fucking earrings. Yeah, she is super talented. If you want handmade beaded earrings, Deidre is it.
So reach out to her on her Facebook right there in the comments. Okay. Oh my gosh. Excuse you. Cat ass. Hi, Kara.
Hi, Kara.
Oh my gosh. She's a ham. So we're here talking with John today about houses 2 and 8. Last time we talked about 1 and 7, and my cats are knocking everything off my dresser. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, you can always go watch the replay in our videos. And that would be the last one that he was here for about a month ago. Exactly a month ago, actually.
Yeah, about a month ago. I managed to schedule in my next vacation not on a week where we do this, so.
Nice.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Lori.
Aw. Love you, Lori.
We love you too. Sending him love. I hope everything's
healing.
Jesus. Yeah, I need to. I'm sending some Reiki energy out. I have a very close friend whose father had a heart attack, and he's not waking up, and so they're disconnecting his life support soon. And
oh shit!
I'm really upset by it.
So much love to that family and to you.
Everyone.
So
yeah, I can't. Yeah. You just there's nothing you can say.
Yeah.
That
I've been in that position.
Well, thank you for being here with us because I mean, you could be taking this time to grieve and heal and do what you need to do.
So but I mean, I've done what I can.
Yeah.
For her, I don't want to smother her. Everybody grieves differently, and so I want to give her the space that she needs, and then go from there. Like when she needs me, I'll be there. But I don't want me needing to be there, to overwhelm anything else.
Hi, Jose. Hi, Catherine.
Well, we're all gonna be holding space and sending love and healing energy to you and all involved. It's definitely a difficult situation for sure. So Hello, everyone. Everyone's starting to file in now. And Steph said, thanks for getting them to start on time, John.
We already know. We said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I
You're
mean,
late.
We said that 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Maybe if you were on time, you would know. We were on time, okay? And we thanked him.
Yes, we did. We're always on time when John's here.
Yeah.
I got the link at 7:30, and I was like, "Those bitches are awesome."
She sent me like before you were sending the link. She's like, "All right, we're gonna send the link," and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah, I
we're
saw
on
it,
it."
and I was like, "Yes, another
Usually-
on-time performance."
Yeah,
Usually we're in there at 15 minutes before, and then 15 minutes after we're like, oh shit, let's start because we're
yeah.
talking.
15, 20 minutes before, so we'll start. But yeah, we totally get distracted, and it's like It's crazy how it's like right before 5 o'clock. Obviously, the conversation gets really intense because then we'll look down and be like, "Wait, how the fuck did that happen?" Be like, "I didn't think I said that many words."
Yeah,
Fluid ancestral time. Yes.
Yes. But everybody figures that's what we tell them. Like everybody knows, our time. We're about
We're on
15 minutes
divine
late.
timing, okay?
Exactly. The messages come when they come, so we're just like, happening now.
Yep. Yeah, the one time. But Sonia was first. I'm just saying.
Yeah, she got one.
She's the title holder for today.
Steph, go ahead. Why don't you ask your question since we haven't started yet? Go for it.
Hi, Anna. Start quick typing, Steph. Come on, now we're waiting.
I know Steph has questions. He's waiting for me to ask her his chart.
He's got great questions too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm here for it.
Star is always on divine timing. I feel her. I'm right there with you, Star. Jose's wife is Star.
Oh, I was like, where do you see Star? Hi, Star.
All right, a friend sent me a birth chart interpretation, and I was surprised by the dominant planet. Can you explain how a dominant planet is determined? So, of course, this being astrology, it depends on which astrologer you ask. So, one of the first things I do is I look at the rising sign, as we've talked about, and I looked at the ruling planet of the rising sign. And we normally call that the ruling planet. The dominant planet could be seen in a number of different ways. It could be a planet that's super strong that provides the energy for a lot of other planets if they're in their sign. For example, I met a lady today who has Mercury in Gemini, which is very powerful, but she also has the sun in Gemini and she also has the moon in Gemini, and they're all stacked together. So in that particular case, I would probably say Mercury is one of the more dominant planets in the chart, but I have to see the whole chart to say. There are occasionally planets that will absolutely take over a chart. I have seen this happen where there's a planet where all the other planets kind of are linked to in one way or another, and we call that a final dispositor. So I know a lady who is a dispatcher for a police department. Okay. And Mercury is the final dispositor in her chart. In other words, all of the planets link to Mercury roundabout, but they all get there. So the idea is that there's a couple of different ways to talk about a dominant planet. Can you tell me which planet was dominant for you, Steph? Because I'd like to hear about that.
Hi, Suzanne.
Okay. 4 in Gemini, Mercury, not the dominant planet, expected Mercury. Okay. Do you have Mercury in Gemini or no?
He is quick though with the responses. I'll
I
give
have
him that.
4 in Gemini, but Mercury is not the dominant planet. I expected Mercury, he said.
Venus, but I rarely have
Venus.
Taurus. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. That's really interesting because it could be about the placement, what it's connected to. It could be a number of different things. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer, but I would be surprised based on what you told me that Venus was the dominant planet. I would probably have to ask the person who told you, like, what was your criteria for that? Because there are other ways you can determine which planet has control over the most real estate too. There are a couple of ways in classical astrology you can do that, but none of them really call it the dominant planet, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I feel like I didn't really answer your question, and I kind of hate that.
He'll let you know.
Yeah.
Very interesting information, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember. I was reading through the report that I got from Lisa earlier today, just for just a snippet. I haven't got the chance to go all the way over it, but
I'm surprised, but I'm an artist, so it makes sense. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the idea is that with there are other things that can make you artistic in addition to Venus. So one of the other possibilities is Neptune. So Neptune's another kind of artistic planet. Um, and so yeah, if it's an app, yeah, which app are we talking about, Steph?
some of those apps can be inaccurate or have differences from chart to chart.
They can, but I'd like to know which one it is. I know a lot of people have been using CoStar is one that I hear a lot
Yeah,
about.
my daughter uses that, and I've heard not so great things about it.
It's okay. It's okay, Steph. We're just chilling tonight. We're a little bit more chill than usual. And that's okay because we're on Star Time.
I love it. Tall Taurus ladies are the best. Yeah, Kara would know. I guarantee she's the one that's been giving Steph little exercises and information.
Yeah,
Helping-
I had no idea she knew as much as she did, so
I
that's
didn't
pretty
either.
fucking dope. I don't know why you be holding back
12,
from us, girl.
from the website
Because
12.
she as soon as the baby was born, she like messaged me, and I was just like, oh my god, I fucking love you, because I was definitely thinking about it, but I didn't do it. So she got her chart for me right away. But that's when I was like, oh girl, I didn't even know you were into it like that. So thank you. And also, why did you not tell me?
Astromatrix.
Astrometrics. Okay. You guys are helping me know more ones. I like to use what the hell do I use? I use Sanctuary. It has your birth chart, it has your horoscope, and then it pulls you a tarot card every day.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay.
Kara said she's never seen a chart ruler calculated the way they do.
Oh.
A 300-page interpretation.
Shit.
Jeez.
Did they tell you when you were going to die too? Because like
For real? What the hell can they tell you in 300 pages?
you know, I mean, does that tell you what meals you're going to eat for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Because
How big is the font?
at least I can buy groceries that way.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh my gosh. That's
300 fucking
That's a
pages? That's
bit
a whole book.
Johnny slacking.
That's crazy.
I'm seeing you IRL, Heather, on Saturday. So remember this when you show up at my house. Just say it.
Oh.
Just say it. I be
Shots
slacking.
fired. You better watch out, girl.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You better watch out.
Mhm. That's all right.
Mm-mm-mm.
You better take a video, whatever you do, and
No,
post
Yeah.
no harm will come to her. My wife is a huge fan of hers. So
Video or it didn't happen.
it.
right.
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And share it. Tag us.
Yeah.
Heather and I go back a long way. She was one of my first students. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So.
Yep. She's the one that brought you.
Yeah,
to
I know that. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Jen
didn't-
loves me. Yes, she does.
I'll wear my sassy pants.
50 pages in, yeah. I bet there is a lot of fluff and repetition.
Okay,
You
that's
know.
what I was gonna say.
Mm-hmm. I know if Heather's not giving me a hard time, I'm like, who's got Heather's phone?
Her thumb's hurting. Is she okay?
Mhm.
Oh shoot.
Astrometrics and the pattern. Yep, I've seen the pattern as an app too.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
pattern. I
that's
have the
one a lot
pattern
of
too.
people have. I like the pattern because it actually gives you some kind of like these are the things that are going on both short and long term.
Yeah.
And that's always good because a lot of people think if they see something in a chart, it's only going to last for a few days. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, that's why I use the pattern and I use Sanctuary.
So with me, usually I'll experience energies of like transits and planetary alignments like a week or up to a month before they actually happen. And
Mm-hmm.
then the transits that I was looking at in my chart, that are saying that they're supposed to start, in a couple of days. I experienced a week and 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why do
Whoops.
I experience everything way before it even makes its way in?
See, this is
So
what it looks like.
that could be a
Can you see it?
honestly, Rebel, that could be a birth time thing.
Okay.
It may be that
You're
your birth
right.
time is off a little, and as such, it could be
Huh.
because
Okay.
sometimes when we do people's long-term transits, especially the long-term ones, if we are waiting for something to happen and it doesn't, or something doesn't start kind of when we think it will, then it's like, well, is if the birth time's 5 minutes off, it makes a huge difference for those outer planets, and how long they transit. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, my birth certificate says 8:44 p.m. So that's all I have to go off of because I really don't remember. I don't think I
Well,
checked.
well, at the doctor's office, they tell me what my BMI is, but I don't believe that either.
Right.
No, seriously. When it comes to birth times, doctors are not always exact with those.
Okay.
So sometimes it'll be like, oh yeah, it'll be 10 minutes later, and now again, in a when you're looking at a birth chart, 10 minutes is not necessarily a big deal, right? Isn't, but it is in the sense of longer term transits and progressions. Like it can impact that. So especially if you're dealing with like a Pluto or a Neptune or something, like if it's off by that much, it could be, a big deal. And especially if it's something like the sun, some of the idea is that um the idea is that there's going to be a little bit of a shift. And so you kind of you kind of learn how accurate someone's birth time is if you work with it for a while.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting. Thank you. Because I've always wondered, why do I experience, well, it's not just with regard to my natal chart, it's the planetary energies, like with like Pluto retrograde, I was experiencing things that go along with that, themes that go along with that before it actually even started getting close to pre-shadow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. Let me. All right. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. I did my tagging at followers. They'll
Okay.
probably start to file in more. Here in a
Yeah,
few
I just did the same
minutes.
thing on both my pages. Oh, maybe I should try to do it from. No, my fucking alias never lets me see our freaking live. It always acts like we're not live until we're live after.
That's all right. If they miss anything, they can catch the replay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't even start on time at birth. Heather said that. I was early, okay? I'm always early in the grander scheme of things, Heather. We're zooming out, big picture energy here. I'm early. We're talking about houses 2 and 8 today. We did 1 and 7 last time, a month ago. And then we're going to carry on with 2 and 8, and then 3 and 9, and so forth for
Yep.
the 6-part series.
Yep, for this 6-part series of All Me. Oh, wait, that was my ego. Sorry. Of
We love
all
it.
of us. All of us. How about that?
We like to shut up and just watch and listen. So,
Yep.
Well, do you want me to start and have people just like get here when they get here? Like,
Yeah.
you tell
Yeah.
me. Okay.
We already have 14 people, so I mean,
All right. Yeah, all right. Kick ass.
more will come in.
All
Especially
right,
'cause you're
folks.
so
Well,
dope.
first of all, thank you for having me back. I apologize for being a human and going on a business trip.
I know. How dare you?
Yeah, I mean, I should know where my priorities are, and I
Not
just
in the
screwed up.
3D. It
I'll
should-
do better. Like I said, I scheduled a vacation for next week and not in 2 weeks, so I'll be back.
Aw. All right. We'll allow it.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. So tonight we're going to be talking about houses 2 and 8. So just as a reminder, the planets are the what of astrology. They provide the energy. The signs are the how of astrology. They say how the planetary energy is expressed. And then we have the houses, which are the where of astrology. In other words, in what area would I expect you to have this energy show up? Okay. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about houses 2 and 8. As I mentioned before, all of the houses work on an axis. In other words, 1 and 7, as we talked about last time, are connected. 2 and 8 are connected. So we're going to talk about both houses. We're going to talk about the connections between them. And I have some of the charts that we had from last time. So we're going to take a look at some of them. And we're going to see what we see. And then we'll go from there. People are already starting to get into it. People are already talking about what the second house is, what the 8th house is. Yeah, you've already hit some of the good ones. Can we not get to death and taxes yet? That was supposed to be part of the reveal, Dasha. But okay, that's fine. Just kill the whole vibe, why don't you? Anyway, so our second house, the natural ruler of the second house is the sign Taurus. And so Taurus is a sign that deals with, first of all, it's Venus ruled, so it's possessions, it's anything that involves money or finances. So the second house is mostly known for money. That's mostly what it's known for. So the way I phrase it in my notes is money and its role in your life, including your earning capacity, your debts, your assets, money you earn and spend, both. Investments. In this case, it can also include investments of time or energy. Anything you own or hope to own. Now, I want to make one exception to that. The second house is called the house of movable possessions. Now, we can all joke about trailer parks in regions where there are tornadoes, right? But a house is not considered a movable possession. The house, the place where you live, your domicile, okay, your residence, is the 4th house. So that's the only one of your quote unquote possessions that is going to be in the 4th house. So we won't talk about homes tonight, but any other possession that can be moved, that's the vast majority of them, as part of the second house. Now, because remember, the second house has that Taurus flavor. Taurus is a Venus ruled sign. So the second house is about what we stand for, what our values are, is a big part of the second house. Also, what you may not know is that the second house also deals with your emotional security. So when we see challenges with the second house and its ruler, we often see people who struggle with their emotional security. This second house represents your inner strength, your self-worth, and your kind of overall life happiness. And again, what a lot of people don't think about is that there are other resources besides financial that we come into the world with. So I call these your non-financial resources. In other words, any talents that you came in with, your innate wealth, anything that you gain through your own efforts. Those are all considered second house areas to work on. Of course, as I said, possessions, anything you can hold and carry generally, anything that provides a sense of substance. And as a reminder, Taurus is the sign that believes she who dies with the most toys wins. So possessions does show up here, as I said. Your ability to be sensual also shows up here in the second. And your rest and relaxation also shows up here. So I'm going to read a quote from Sesportus. And so the quote is this: signs and planets in the second house also serve as guidelines, indicating the kinds of inherent faculties and capabilities which we can develop and concretize, and through which we gain a greater sense of our self-worth. Okay, so that is a super great way of setting up the second house. And again, a lot of people just see it as money. Folks, it's a lot more than just money. Let's keep in mind that when you're dealing with a house, you're dealing with 80 or 90 or so different things. So let's not, again, we try with certain things are going to come up, yes, but we try not to be too one-dimensional about it. Okay? So our stuff that we personally own is part of the second house. Now, I will also say, as a reminder, that the idea of the second and eighth houses being connected is really strong, because underneath the horizon, houses 1 through 6, I think I mentioned this before, houses 1 through 6 are the personal houses. Stuff belongs to you, right? Anything 7 through 12, anything above the horizon, belongs to you and someone else. So the second house is a personal house. The eighth house is not. So as some people have already mentioned, let's talk about the eighth house. So the opposite sign from Taurus is Scorpio. And so the eighth house has a Scorpio flavor to it. Now, the challenge with all of the houses that are water sign ruled, in other words, that a water sign kind of forms the basis. So this would be 4, 8, and 12, is that they're the ones that tend to be really deep. In other words, they're the ones that have a lot of emotional stuff going on in the background, and you have to really dig deep to find things. So as you hear about the eighth house and what I'm about to say, then we honestly have to keep in mind that there's a greater emotional depth to the eighth house that you haven't seen yet, because we've only done 1 and 2 and 7 so far. Okay, what does the eighth house deal with? The eighth house deals with helping and healing. The eighth house is where we get support from other people. The eighth house also, and again, I don't want to melt anyone's brains, but the eighth house is the second house from the seventh. So if the seventh house is our partner, the eighth house is our partner's money. So when we look at that, we can kind of say, okay, what kind of financial support is my partner going to provide? By the way, as an aside, politicians usually have a very strong seventh house, because that means eighth house, excuse me, because people support them. The challenge with the eighth house is that you're not the one providing the support for that. Again, it's a collective house. It's an impersonal house. So other people have to contribute for that. So if you remember back in the olden days of, the 1950s, where a woman would hope to marry well, right? The idea of marrying well is an eighth house idea. In other words, what is your spouse going to bring to the table? And again, these days, it could be a long-term partner too. Like any partner you're with, what do they bring to the table? So we talk about joint property. So this is money you gain from marriage or divorce, any of your partner's assets, any legacies and wills and trusts, any family money that comes in. That also includes inheritances. So if you have a lot of activity there, you may find yourself inheriting money at some point. Now, we've talked a lot about Scorpio in here, okay? And I mean, I'm a Scorp, I own it, right? But the thing is, Scorpio doesn't mess around when it comes to like, we are comfortable here, and we want others to be comfortable here. So I will say this honestly, The eighth house is a difficult one to deal with because it deals with very, very serious topics. Anything that's taboo, folks, is considered an eighth house topic. So if people don't want to talk about it, likely a Scorpio will be like, oh yeah, you want to talk about that? Sure, I'll talk about it. So ideas of life and death, birth, endings, psychological rebirth, your physical death, all of those things, like the idea of a physical death, all those things are part of the eighth house. Where Dasha said earlier, like death and taxes, and it's like, yeah, death and taxes, but you did leave out the other one, which of course, because it's Scorpio, is sex and sexuality. So the eighth house also deals with sexual behavior, attitude towards sexual activity, and specifically the idea of orgasm or climax is an eighth house idea. Now, again, with such deep topics, we also deal with things like change and transformation, evolution, reconstruction, elimination. Scorpio rules all of the eliminative organs in the body, right? People are like, oh, you got all the fun organs. No, we get the anus too, folks. That's not exactly always fun, but I guess it depends on who you ask. So as you're thinking about this, remember that anything in the eighth house is probably pretty deep. So you're dealing with research, you're dealing with deep examination, okay? Of course, taxes are part of that because what is it? Well, it's your money supporting the government. So it makes total sense that it's here. Any kind of spiritual support you provide for people is here. One of the challenges of this house is that this can show you, the eighth house can show you how susceptible you are to manipulating others or being manipulated. Unfortunately, Scorpio is a sign that's known for that too, sadly. So when you're looking at the eighth house, remember there is a lot of stuff here that is really deep and important, but it's not always easy to get to. And the eighth house also deals with things like therapy. So you can absolutely really kind of, as you look at the eighth house, depending on what's sitting in there, it can be something that's deep down that you have to look at, that's really, really deep down. So as we're looking at these houses, folks, remember that the eighth house is in some ways much deeper than the second. It has a much more, to me, it has a much more emotional overtone. And because it deals with sex and sexuality, a lot of people don't want to look at it. They're like, oh, no, I don't want to look at that. It's like, well, we kind of have to. It's part of who we are. Okay.
With Scorpio placements myself, I'm like, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah. And if you have a heavy eighth house, or a very, very, if you're very comfortable with the planet Pluto, for example, then the eighth house isn't going to bother you. In my case, I would say that you kind of come by it honestly if you have a lot of Scorpio planets. Like, it won't be as big a deal for you. But for me, I have the eighth house. I don't have Scorpio on the cusp of it. I actually have Libra on the cusp of it, but I have Pluto at the Aries point, which is 0 Libra. So I have Libra there, Pluto and Libra there. And one of the challenges of having Pluto and Libra at the Aries point is that it's in that eighth house of death, sex, evolution, transformation. So that's a lot of the work that I do with astrology, is helping people grow and transform. And more people are asking me questions about sex, and thankfully I'm very comfortable with that, so not a big deal. But for me, my job is to help people transform. At the Aries point, it means that it's very visible. It means that when I go places, I am very visible. So people will be drawn to me for that. They kind of know that when I walk into a room, something's changing. They're like, oh, what's he going to change for us today? Is he going to change my mind? What is he going to do? And so when you're looking at the eighth house, remember that because it's got a Scorpio flavor to it, it tends to be one that people, if they study astrology even a little, tend to shy away from. Okay. I'm going to take a moment and just see if there's any questions people have so far, because I realized last time I didn't really allow for that. So if you got a question, go for it.
They'll probably be throwing them in also as we go
No,
along.
that's fine.
They're not shy about asking questions.
Good. Yeah, this group does not seem to be that way.
I'm doing well, keeping my composure. Steph, I was dying on the inside. Outwardly, I don't express a lot of emotion, and that's why I use emojis whenever I'm like texting and stuff, because I'm so used to people not getting my emotion because my face is usually pretty solid. I have perfected resting bitch face.
All right. So the 8th house gets treated like the Tower in the Devil card. No, not really, because the Devil actually represents the sign of Capricorn, and the Tower actually represents the planet Mars. So the Tower is a little closer because it's the ancient world. The ancient world, Mars was the ruler of Scorpio. So I could kind of give you a partial credit for that one. I can't give you any credit for the Devil, though. The Death card in the tarot is the one that you really want to look at for Scorpio. That's where that one is. So let's see. I have Mercury, Venus, and Neptune on Scorpio all in the 8th. Oh, Patrick. Okay, then that's a heavy 8th house. Like, this is someone who might, depending on what the rest of the chart said, would be, do you want to work as a therapist? Like, do you want to work as somebody who does deep research, sometimes involving other people? Like, that's one of the things I would say about that. And
that would be Patrick too. The research about
yeah. Sometimes with the 8th house, we also see forensics professionals. We sometimes see forensic professionals there too. And so when we're looking at the whole picture, the 8th and the 2nd house, of course, play off each other. So one is the stuff that I have, and the other stuff is the other part is the stuff that other people have, and it does give an intensity, because it's, again, the 8th house and Scorpio are not the same thing. I want to be very clear on that. They're not. But because it's the naturally the 8th sign, that house does have a Scorpio flavor to it. So don't be afraid of that either. But that's how we look at it. All right, so let's pull up a few charts that I have, and I'm going to use some of the ones we've used before. So I'm not going to. So no mysteries tonight. I'm just going to pull up a few, and we're going to see what their 8th and 2nd houses look like. So let me present. All right, wrong thing.
Did he back out? Uh-oh. You're on mute.
I forgot I was on mute. He'll come back.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, uh-oh. He did that earlier when he was talking to us. It was funny. He's like, physically, I'm here.
Yeah, peekaboo.
And then then he disappeared.
Peekaboo, where are you? There he is. Let me add to stage. There we are.
Okay, so note to self, don't close the window you're talking in.
Yeah, probably not the best idea.
I was just like, why do I? So I'm going to try to share again, assume that my hosts will trust me enough to do so. Let's try this again. Oh, okay. Let's see here. There we go. That's the one I want. Okay. Okay, so everyone should be able to see Kurt Cobain now. Okay, or his chart anyway, not him.
There we go.
All right, so let's take a look at what we have here for Mr. Cobain. So if we look at his 2nd house, you're going to notice that the chart has Libra sitting as the cusp of the 2nd house. Libra is a sign that is ruled by Venus. And so what we do in the chart is we're looking at Venus. Okay, so as we look at Venus in this chart, we're seeing it here in Pisces. Now, Venus in Pisces is downright lovely. It is powerful, it's creative, and let's not forget, Venus is a money planet. And we're talking about a money house. We're talking about the second house. So this house is well supported to do its job. And I want to explain what I mean by that. Libra's on the cusp. The sign that the planet that supports Libra is Venus. It's the ruling planet. So Venus does well in the chart, so it helps the second house be welcoming to the person. So as we look at it, we can see, okay, he's got Venus in Pisces ruling the second, which is already excellent. So there's the potential for money already there. Then if we look inside the house, we see that he has Mars and Scorpio. Okay. As I've mentioned before, the ancient ruler of Scorpio is Mars. And Mars in Scorpio is very, very powerful. Remember what Mars's job is, ladies and gentlemen. Mars's job is to motivate. So what was Kurt Cobain motivated to do? Make money, likely. He was motivated to do that. And so it gave him an extra oomph in this particular house because it's something that he wanted to do. He wanted to make a lot of money. Now, if I look at the placement of Venus again, it's in the 7th house of someone else. So I could have guessed that it was going to take at least one other person for him to have the kind of success that he wanted. And again, obviously it wasn't him alone. It was him with Nirvana. So, you take from that what you will, but those are the kinds of considerations we look at. So if I was talking to him, I would probably say, dude, I'm not really worried about money. Like for you, you're probably going to do just fine. Now, what makes this chart even more interesting is if I look at the 8th house, the ruler of the 8th house is Mars, is Aries through Mars and Scorpio. Once again, we have a connection from the 2nd house to the 8th because the ruling planet Mars is in the 2nd house. So what does that mean? Well, it means that he is going to be well supported. A lot of other people obviously liked him, liked his music, and were willing to pay for it because there's a connection here between the 8th and the 2nd. We don't see that particularly often, but it does happen. So once again, if I saw both of those, I probably would have said to him, if he was worried about money, I probably would have said, your money problems are temporary. They're not going to, you're not going to be, I'm not going to be as concerned about money for you, if that makes sense. But that's a little bit about how we look at it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Makes sense to me. I don't know if you could see my head shaking because it's little.
Okay, it's fine.
Makes sense to me too.
All right, good. All right, so let's take a look at another chart. Let's look at Taylor Swift, see how she does. All right. All right, so let's look at Taylor. So once again, we're going to look at the 2nd house and we're going to look at the 8th house. But what we're going to do first is we're going to take Kurt Cobain off because we're not comparing the two of them. we're just working with Taylor on her own. I think she's more than enough. I think everyone would agree. So let's take a look at the 2nd house. So we have Sagittarius on the cusp of the 7th house. And if my basic astrology that I know, I would say, okay, Sagittarius is here. What's the ruling planet of Sagittarius? It's up in the 8th house. So wait a minute. Is that another connection between the 2nd and 8th house for someone who's super wealthy? Huh. That's pretty wild how that happens, isn't it? Anyway, the ruling planet is Jupiter. Jupiter is in Cancer. Jupiter is what we call exalted in Cancer. It means it practically can do no wrong. It's very, very strong. So the planet that is supporting the second house is already really good. Now, you don't need to be an astrologer to look at the second house and go, holy shit, look at all the planets in the second house. This is a lady who has a packed second house. So we've got Uranus there, we've got Mercury there, we've got Neptune, the planet of music there, we've got Saturn in Capricorn, the planet of ultimate discipline there, and we've got Venus there in Aquarius. All of those planets together, I mean, all in the second house, this is somebody who's going to make potentially a lot of money just from here alone. I mean, that alone is, that's an incredible thing. And I want you to keep something else in mind too. Capricorn is a sign that does very, very well with money. So likely she manages it quite well. And when you have that much, it's probably easy. But you and I all know that there are scenes from different people's lives who are, who make a lot of money, but who also spend it really well. This is the chart of a person who knows how to spend money well and save it too. So that's always good. If we look over once again at the 8th house of Taylor Swift, then what are we seeing there? Well, we're seeing Mercury on the cusp. We're seeing, Gemini on the cusp. And then we're seeing Mercury as the ruling planet of Gemini. So where's Mercury? Well, it's in the second house. So once again, we have the ruler of the second in the 8th, and we have the ruler of the 8th in the second in frugal Capricorn. So again, we're talking about someone who is going to has the potential to be very, very wealthy, but also knows how to manage her money. Now, as we've said before, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in the 8th house. So she's going to get a lot of support. It's a really, really good placement. So if you're talking about money, and again, I know everybody knows what Taylor Swift tickets go for these days. So it doesn't sound like too much of a surprise, but I want you to understand that these two charts that I just pulled, both of them are from people who have been wealthy. Okay. So again, I know that, but I want you to see how it fits. It's another person who has a similar chart. I don't have the chart, but Oprah Winfrey also has a very powerful chart for money too. If you ever get a chance to look at hers, I absolutely would, because it's got some great, as I recall, it's got some great second 8th house action going on. But both of these two charts are really excellent for financial gain. Okay. All right. So let's see what else we've got. Let's look at Brad Pitt. Okay. All right. So with Mr. Pitt, what we're seeing is Capricorn on the cusp of the second house, and we're looking for Saturn. And Saturn, the ruling planet of Capricorn, is sitting in the second house. Remember, in the ancient world, that Saturn used to rule both Capricorn and Aquarius. So both of those are powerful positions. So he has a very powerful second house ruler sitting in the second. Once again, it's that reinforcement of money. Also, Aquarius happens to be the sign of mass media. So you're sitting there going, okay, well, maybe it was journalism, or maybe it was something else, but we all know it was acting. Now, as we look at the 8th, this is where it's a lot different from some of the other charts we've seen, because we have Cancer on the cusp of the 8th house, and then we have the moon in Capricorn sitting over here in the 1st house. The moon in Capricorn, I call it Hoover Dam, because it restricts energy flow. And as such, his eighth house is not as good. It's not as well set up for money. But again, it's a planet that's in Capricorn, so there's the desire to save. He didn't really, if I had, honestly, he probably didn't get the support he needed, especially as a child. Like growing up, he probably didn't get it. But as he grew older, he definitely had a second house that was excellent for money. But again, his eighth is not particularly good. So it may have taken him a while to get to the place where he wanted to be financially, and that's okay. But still, this is a healthy, not bad.
What might you see in someone's chart who isn't going to be wealthy or may be experiencing more poverty?
So one of the things we look for in a chart where it's straight up, money challenges. So the first thing we do is we look at Venus, because Venus is a money planet. If Venus is what we call afflicted, meaning that if Venus has some kind of major problem or is sitting next to something that is not doing particularly well or causing a problem for it, then someone might have difficulty with money. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people who have afflicted Venuses have problems with both love and money, which, seems completely unfair, right? But what I will say is that when we see someone who struggles with money, we often see problems with Venus. We can also see on the cusp of the second house, for example, one of the areas that you could consider potentially a problem is Aquarius. So if you see Aquarius on the cusp of the second house, it's ruled by the planet Uranus and Saturn. So neither one of those planets, Uranus is probably better in this case, but Saturn is a planet that is very, very stingy. And so when you see Aquarius on the cusp of the second, it can mean, oh, wait, I have money. And then, oh, wait, I have no money. It's like easy come, easy go. I never really know what's up with that. Also, if you find that Jupiter, because Jupiter is also a planet that has a financial aspect to it. If you see Jupiter in the second, it could mean money, but it could also mean someone who spends money, a lot of it. On the very negative side, Jupiter is the planet of waste. So it is possible that with someone having Jupiter in the second house, you might get somebody who's a total wastrel. Depending on what planet it is, what sign Jupiter is in. Like Jupiter in Sagittarius, for example, very, very strong, but maybe it's I'm just going to spend, and I'm not going to care. My old astrology teacher used to say, save it, spend, and God will send. Like that's very much a Sagittarian attitude. Like, I'm just going to spend money, and when it shows up, it shows up, and if it doesn't, that's cool. But if we see an afflicted Venus, that's what's most likely to cause problems with finances. But also, like I said, impulse spending, especially in fire signs, a lot of times, if people want to just spend a lot, then it can cause some challenges. But again, we also can look at a sign like Capricorn with a little bit of difficulty too, because he's very, very stingy and he doesn't always want to give up things. So you might find that person has a little bit of difficulty with money too. In addition to all that, remember, we have that second house that deals with not just money, but also our emotional security. And so if people are having trouble emotionally, that can also translate into financial problems.
Agreed. Thank you for that perspective.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Let's look at Miley real quick, and we'll see what she's like. All right, so let's look at what's going on with her. Okay, so she has Gemini on the cusp of the second. Okay, one of the challenges already with Gemini is that it's a double-bodied sign. So, in other words, it's not particularly focused. And so it's very easy for someone with a Gemini on the cusp of the second to not kind of have a financial plan, like just kind of like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to kind of keep going, and change direction often when it comes to money. Like, yeah, I can spend, no, I can't. Yeah, I can spend, no, I can't. And if I look at the ruling planet in this chart, you're going to see that the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. So look over by the descendant here, and you're going to see Mercury in Scorpio. Now, I am going to point this out too. Notice that the 27 degrees is red. It's because Miley Cyrus has a natal Mercury retrograde. And as such, the focus can be even less there. Even though when she is focused, she's very, very intense, it's Mercury in Scorpio, but she also has Mercury retrograde. So as far as her money handling skill, if I were talking to her, I would probably say, how good are you at that? Like, are you saver by day, spender by night? Like, how does that work? And it might not work particularly well. Her ruling planet for Mercury is in the 6th house, which is day to day, but it's very close to the 7th house of partnerships. So one of the things I would say to her is you really need to watch your day-to-day spending and know what you're spending on and why. And also, don't spend too much money on relationships. Like, make sure that you're really, really committed and that someone else is spending money on the relationship too. So I'm really convinced that likely her money handling skills are probably not the greatest. Now, as I look at the 8th house, I'm seeing Jupiter on the 8th house, and I really, really, in this case, I'm seeing Venus in the 8th, so there's definitely some support there. But when I see Sagittarius, I'm looking in the 5th house for Jupiter. So Jupiter in Libra is there. Jupiter in Libra is not bad. It's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. So she has some 8th house support from other people, but she does have Venus sitting in the house. So she's Venus in Capricorn there. So she does her 8th house is much better off than her 2nd. Like, she probably does better having other people support her than her supporting herself. At least she was at first, And I mean, how long? Because I always have to wonder, like, how long did her dad support her in her career? Like, when she was, and the 8th house support doesn't necessarily mean that it's a partner. It can also be a parent or somebody else too. Okay. So in this particular chart, again, for someone who's wealthy, not a great chart, but once again, not a terrible one. Of the 4, this is probably the worst one of the 4, like the most challenging when it comes to money. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick break and grab another soda. If people have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. I know, Steph, you had a question up there somewhere.
Yep.
I gotta let it go. Yeah. I'll put that up.
And I'll stop sharing for a moment while we, Neptune in the 2nd. Huh. All right, hang on to that. I'll be right back.
Okay. There, we can switch back to that view. Hi, Nicole. That's okay. We're just talking about the houses. You can watch the replay and catch up on what you missed. Still present for you. I was dying inside on those comments, guys. But, my Capricorn dominance has my RBF in check.
Which is good for wrinkles. You won't get any.
All right, so let's talk about Neptune in the second, since Steph asked. So Neptune in the second could be a number of different things, so we'll throw them out there. So this could be money spent on the arts or music, because Neptune is a planet that deals with the arts and music as well as anything creative. So we could go with that. This could also be, remember we talked about the secrecy, potential secrecy of Neptune. So let's not forget that Neptune does have a really challenging shadow side to it. And so when you're dealing with Neptune, you may have, in the second, you may have the ability to secretly keep money from other people. You also may have a gift for intuitive ability. That may be an ability that you have to keep secrets or to be very, very sensitive. It could be a religious or spiritual idea that you're that you can develop with that. It could be a tremendously high ability to connect with other people on a very deep level spiritually too. So we could go with any of all of those, especially in the case of Neptune in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a very spiritual sign as it is. And so when you're dealing with Neptune there, one of the other challenges I would say is make sure you don't keep your heart in your wallet. In other words, make sure you know that what you're spending, even if it's for fun, and know that eventually you're still going to have to pay the bill, because Sagittarius is a Jupiter ruled sign, and it's pretty much like YOLO, people. Like, yeah, YOLO, you might only live once, but you got to pay the bills every month. So there you go.
Love it. Any other questions from any of y'all?
While I take a minute and not talk.
Yeah. Neptune and Sun and Capricorn in the second for Kara. Dosha rocks it. Her name is Kara. That's her business name, obviously. But
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, Haley is a Sagittarius. That's my daughter, Haley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
Wait,
I remember. I've seen your chart, Haley. You and I are supposed to talk at some point.
Oh. That's right. You did say something about that before you went on your trip.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
he
remember
sent
that.
me her chart.
Oh.
Sun in the second. What about having Sun in the second?
So Sun in the second is a very interesting focus, because it means that you shine in areas that are financial or assets or self-esteem. Like your self-esteem, you probably are a pretty strong person. Like if you have the sun in the second, you see the ability that you have that ability to shine in the area of finance or self-respect, self-esteem. But you also could be very money or assets focused. You could also be very debt focused. I do know somebody, I don't know what her second house looks like, but her like life goal is to have an 800 credit score. Like that's like a serious goal of hers.
Oh my gosh.
And I kind of go, not for me, but like, okay, a good credit score, yes, but I don't have to. I'm not going to
Yeah. I
lose
don't care about.
sleep over not being 800. I mean,
Yeah. I kind of care about some of it, but I don't care if it's an 800. Like,
you know.
just enough to let me get a phone, obviously, because that shit was stopping me.
Oh
Or
yeah,
a
well,
fucking house or a car. So please. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, they do credit checks for any of that stuff.
Yeah. I was
know,
telling Rebel that
All of it now.
she was like, do a what did you call it? What kind of a plan? But either way.
Post-pay.
Yeah, and I was like, my credit score is, because I don't care about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting how many things they're checking credit scores for these days. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, they've been. I worked for AT&T Wireless. Gosh, like 15 years ago, and they were checking credit for that then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
surprised.
I could never get phones for anything but Metro because of the fact that they've always been like, your credit score, your credit score. But I'm just like okay with paying with cash, so
Yeah.
but it did suck because I would always want to go and like, get a better like phone company because Metro always fucking sucked for service. But now they're like everywhere it seems. But I was like, I always wanted like a T-Mobile or a Verizon or a AT&T because it sounded like they had better coverage. But nope, they would run my credit and they'd be like, yeah, nah, you ain't getting a phone here. And I'm like, oh,
No. And it's sad that it's come to that.
yeah,
In a lot of ways, it's like the idea of credit worthiness has really become crazy important, for
yeah,
things that you normally wouldn't
yeah,
expect,
yeah.
which is disappointing. But also, as an aside, let's not forget that there is a whole side of astrology that deals with finances. So as you think about this in a birth chart, also remember that you can use the stars for investing. You know,
Ooh,
you can use all of that, and there are plenty of good financial astrologers out there who can help you learn how to invest with astrology. And one of them I know is very, very, very famous. His name is Ray Merriman, and he's made tons of money on Wall Street, and he's pretty much the premier financial astrologer in the U.S. And when it comes to money and astrology, pretty much he's your guy. You know.
Oh yeah. So team up with an astrologer and invest.
Yeah, and there are people who will, for example, I knew a guy who would just, and I say just, right, use the moon. He wouldn't use all the planets, but he just used cycles of the moon. And when the moon was waxing, he would buy, and when the moon was waning, he would sell, that kind of thing. And his system was overall pretty good. Like I think he did pretty well. But astrology can help you do all that. Astrology can also help you know what businesses to invest in because every business has a chart too, folks. So let's not forget that either. And as I've said, I may have told you, I've looked at charts of like Bank of America and Apple and some of these bigger companies, and you can see why they're a success and why they've been a success over a long period of time.
Yeah, and they probably planned those. Like,
Yeah, and yeah, but I mean, so not necessarily. I mean, Microsoft was started in somebody's garage. Like
yeah,
they weren't planning to be like one of the biggest companies in the world.
yeah,
Started making shit. And so not always, but again, think about it. If you have an astrologer at your disposal, you can plan something out where the money is there and it's coming in. Um and I think the other thing I want to mention is that sometimes there's, even in a chart, there's too much money. So I'm going to explain what I mean. So I did the astrology chart of a company that was a publishing company. So they published novels. Okay. And one of the things I noticed was that they had a very, very heavy, heavy earth influence in the chart. So they actually had what's called a grand trine in earth signs. They had one planet over here, one planet over here, one planet over here, all in a big triangle, and they were all earth signs. The chart was heavy earth. Now, you'd think, okay, that's pretty good, right? That all these things are getting along. And like the challenge with something like a grand trine is that it tends to create a closed circuit. The energy can't get out anywhere, right? It's stuck there. And so this company had lots of material, is the term I'm going to use. They had lots of authors who wanted to work with them. So I knew some authors who worked with them. I knew one of them, actually, my wife worked with them, and she was like the 13th author they signed. And in the next year, they signed another like 100 authors. I mean, they signed a ton of authors.
Wow.
The challenge is that they didn't have a full-time employee. Both of the employees of the business were working other businesses. And so publication dates would get missed, checks for royalties wouldn't go out on time, if at all. Financially, they were a mess, and they had a ton of money. And you could see in the chart that they had tremendous potential. But that grand trine really just made, the money's just going to run around and run around and run around. And they have this advantage, but they didn't do anything with it. The rest of the chart was not really particularly good. So when I looked at it, I kind of went, The point I make is that even if you've got a lot of Earth in a chart, and even if you've got a really good Venus, or a really good second or eighth house, nothing really, there are no guarantees, right? It's about how you play the game. And that's what I talk about. The chart is where you start. So one of the questions you might ask is, okay, so what do I do if I have a business that has a terrible chart? Because sometimes people do, like, they have an absolutely a business with a terrible chart. And I would say that one of the things you can do is work with an astrologer and rebrand. When you rebrand, you're starting again, you're getting a new chart for the business. So, for example, if I see a business that has a Venus retrograde in the chart, okay, that's like the kiss of death for a business. Like, I wouldn't even charge a business to do a chart for that. I would probably just say, I don't think you're not going to like what I have to say. I don't think this is a good idea. So I'm not gonna charge you, but here's why. So I would probably end up saying to that person, hey, listen, I would recommend you do a rebrand, and if you want to pay me for consulting, then I'm happy to do that and help you get the right date. But at that point, I probably would say no. So Dasha asked, what date to use for the business to run the chart? That is an outstanding question. There are several dates that you can use. So if you're talking about a retail business, it can be the day you made your first sale. It can be the day you opened a property, like a retail entity. So it could be that. It could also be, if you're a publicly traded company, it could be the date your stock went public. If you are not a publicly traded company, it could be the day that your company was incorporated. The date and time and place where your company was incorporated. Any of those would work. You can also, if you filed business paperwork at a given time, let's say you were doing an electronic application to a state government or a county government or something to establish a business, you could use that moment that you submitted it as the chart for the business. In my case, for my business, I had to tell my employer, because of where I work, I have to tell my employer if I have any other outside employment, they call it. And so the start date for my business was the day that I handed in my form saying, this is what I'm doing for a living, like outside of work. So that's the date that I use for mine. Nice. But that's a great question, Dasha. You can compare and contrast. And depending on how they look, you can look at all of them. Like, they all have some validity. And that's where you can really get an astrologer excited, because they're like, oh, there's this chart and there's this one, and let's see how they work together. One of the other things you can do, and this is a really amazing thing, is if you take the chart of a business and you take the chart of the CEO and put them together, like, how do they get along? Like, some CEOs are better than others, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So you can do that too. Now, most companies that you talk to are not going to be that progressive to hire an astrologer and be like, okay, we're interviewing these 3 people. Here are their charts. Which one do you think is the best fit? But
oh my gosh, it's funny that you say that. Because there's a whole episode on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Uncle Phil was working for, or actually Will got a job working for some dude who was like heavily into astrology, and like based off of your signs, he wouldn't work with you. Like he was super into that shit. Like he listened to, I think it was his dead dog's advice and shit, but like he
Oh
was
wow.
heavily into astrology, and that was how he did all his business. He had a personal astrologer.
And a lot of people do, and for the most part, if they use us in that way, we're just business consultants at
Mhm.
that point. We say, I mean, we're business astrologers, but yeah. Oh, Dasha, good. You ran the charts for everybody on your team. Excellent. That's great. That's
That's
great that they
awesome.
were open to that, because most people probably wouldn't be. Now let me answer Patrick's question. So,
That's
what
really
is
awesome.
horary and electional astrology? Horary astrology is astrology used for divination. So that means that you call me and you go, John, a friend of mine just went to jail. What's going to happen to him? And as soon as you tell me the question and I understand the question, I cast a chart for that moment. Horary astrology is great in a lot of ways because it can give you some great information, just like tarot or crystals or any crystal ball or anything else. It's a great divinatory tool, but horary astrology has very specific rules. And if you like rules and you like astrology, then horary is it for you, because horary has been around a long time. Um, um, William Lilly was an astrologer in England who pioneered horary, and there are courses that people run here in the U.S. Some of the best astrologers in the world run courses on horary astrology. So that's horary. Electional is kind of what we were talking about with the business chart, meaning electional is when I choose to do something, when I elect to do something, when I elect to have surgery, elect to get married, elect to start a business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so part of what I do is if people contact me and they want a good day, then I say, okay, in what's your window? A couple of months or a month or whatever. And I give them the best date and time based on what they're doing. So if they're opening a beauty salon, I want Venus. If they're opening a dentist office, I want Saturn, because Saturn rules the teeth. So there are certain things you can look at to help people succeed. And so that's what electional is. Dasha, do I do business charts? Yes, I do. I actually like business charts quite a bit. Not everybody does it, but I do it and I love it. Um, so that's that. But what you're going to find is that even if someone has a strong second or strong eighth house, um, it's always good to look at any business that they're a part of, and just to see like how successful is it. That's important too.
Good to know.
Mhm.
Any more questions, guys? Those were great questions, by the way.
Oh,
They always
one,
have
two,
really
three.
good questions.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, and then it's 13 and 14.
Lisa asks, what's the best time to start a new business, a new moon like today?
So it totally depends on the business. To me, it totally depends on the business. Every business is going to have a certain planet that's in charge. So if we're talking about a communications business, I want Mercury. If I'm talking about a catering business, I want Venus. If I'm talking about opening a gym, I want Mars. If I'm talking about opening a holistic healing center, I probably want Jupiter. You know, if I'm talking about like I said, a dentist or someone who works with bones, or a coach, for example, like someone who's doing coaching, I would probably want Saturn involved because Saturn deals with boundaries. So you can make a decision based on what the business is, and not just one planet. It could be multiple planets are involved depending on what the business is doing. So a new moon probably isn't going to hurt, but new moon in what? Like, that's the question. So right now it's the new moon in Gemini, right? So um again, if we're talking about a business that involves spiritual growth, probably not the best time to do that. Probably not, because Gemini is a wonderful sign for many things, but it can lack focus. And so, if you're opening a school for meditation, Gemini is definitely not it. So
Squirrel.
Lisa says, "Thank you, John, so much. It makes so much sense. Do you believe the moon is a spaceship?"
Is this a trick question?
No.
I don't think that John's.
No, I don't believe the moon is a spaceship, but I'm happy to be open to be proven wrong. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Great answer.
Yeah, I like that. That's very open-minded, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to. I think it's too easy to kind of go, no, it's not, and I mean, it doesn't cost anything to be open.
Yeah.
Just okay. I mean, there are some people who do things that I wouldn't, like things that I don't, believe things that I don't. Okay, that's not hurting me any. Last time I checked.
I like the way you move.
Google Tiamat Wars. That's what she's referring to. Ah, okay. Well, that would explain that. Okay, fair enough.
Have you heard of Tiamat?
I know what Tiamat is. I've been playing D&D for a long time, but
okay.
Yeah.
I love that. You're so cool. I think you're so cool because of that.
I was running campaigns at 13.
My roommate. Oh no, his name was not John. Actually, his name was David. But his name was John too. No, his name was David. But he was super into fucking D&D when he used to live with us. He used to try to get us to come and play, but we would always be busy when he would be doing it. But it just was the coolest shit to hear him talk about, like, the storylines and shit. It was cool.
That's great. That's awesome. But I mean, we could, like I said, there's if people are that interested in the business side of this thing, like of astrology, like once we get done with the houses, happy to pull some business charts and show you guys some of that too.
Cool.
It's really fascinating shit. It absolutely.
Oh, I bet.
And also keep in mind that the planets have different. Their jobs are a little different.
Oh, I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you would know. Like 2 years ago, out of nowhere, I have this mark. It's like a fucking. It reminds me of, I don't know, not necessarily a birthmark, but it's faded and it like appeared out of nowhere. It's like a scar, okay? And it appeared out of nowhere. It was the day before Christmas. So it was Christmas Eve. It was 2 years ago, and it is literally the Saturn symbol. It's that little H with the little T on it. I don't know why, but it's on my right thigh, and it ended up there out of nowhere. I remember taking a picture because I wanted to know what people thought it meant, but I have no idea. Like, am I ruled by Saturn because of this? I just wondered, because I was like, why the fuck do I have a Saturn mark on my leg? And it looks like a scar, but I'd never had it at all. And then 2 years ago, it just showed up out of nowhere.
Steph, first of all, how do you know I'm not a dermatologist?
Yeah. Jumpy Jumperson, jump into conclusions.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I have watched enough of Dr. Pimple Popper that I'm going to give that a shot. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Kidding.
It's a scar, a burn mark, whatever it looks like. I have no idea. But yes, okay. I figured he might know. It's astrology.
I mean, if Saturn marked you, I look at that as a good thing.
That's what I'm like. It's the craziest shit. It's literally the Saturn symbol. I remember when I looked at it, I tried to I took a picture and you know how you can Google search it, and that's how I found out it was a Saturn symbol.
That's amazing.
That's why I was like, oh shit, okay. I don't know why, but it's there.
Well, when I have my conversation with him next week, I have a Zoom call with Saturn next week.
Yes, ask please.
I'll be like, listen, Father Saturn,
do they brand me? Am I theirs now?
Favor. Stop messing with my friends.
Yeah.
Okay? Cut that shit out. You know what that does to people.
I mean, I can try to get up and show you my thigh, but it's really there.
I believe you. I mean,
That's right, Daddy Saturn.
Yeah.
I can totally believe you. So don't even worry about that. Yeah. My throat is starting to get a little bit sore, so I may bail soon. But
Yes.
are there any other questions that that anyone has? And I do want to mention Dasha's comment about Daddy Saturn brings lots of blessings if you do the work. Yes, one of the things that you need to realize is that when you're dealing with Saturn, he requires the work. He will not give you a reward until you do the work. So, one of the things that I often like to say, and I heard this a number of years ago at a conference and I just loved it, was this: Jupiter promises, but Saturn pays. Sometimes Jupiter will come along and he'll just give you shit. Oh, here's $20 in your jeans. Here's a tax refund. Here's half off of, whatever you just bought, But Saturn won't do that. Saturn will say to you, do the work and you'll get the reward. And when you say, okay, I've done the work, Saturn goes, not enough yet. You will absolutely 100% have to work and get Saturn's blessing. But here's the thing. When you get a Saturn reward, it will never be taken from you. It's permanent.
Long term.
Yeah. With Jupiter, it can be easy come, easy go. I remember a Jupiter incident that I very much thought of as a Jupiter incident was my wife and I went out to a restaurant one night, and there was a place across the street that was that a bank across the street had opened, and they were paying for everybody's meal in the restaurant that night just to advertise their business. And it's like, how could you have possibly thought that, like, you're just sitting there and all of a sudden, somebody just wants to pay for your whole meal, like dessert included, just like, hey, have what you want, we're paying. And so that's a Jupiter kind of thing. You just don't know, right? And I say this knowing full well that next week I'm on vacation and I'm in Las Vegas, which is the ultimate Jupiter city.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want a shot at this? Sure, you got a chance. And yeah, go ahead, And there's actually one hotel, and I forget which one it is. But it actually has a lounge that's called YOLO.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, you only live once? That's a Jupiter motto. Saturn never does that. Saturn says, if you work hard, you get the reward, and I'm not going to cut you any slack. So he can be kind of a dick. I'm not going to lie.
Planet of discipline.
He is not fun. He's not going to buy you drinks. He's going to say,
I have a lot of Saturn. I have a lot of Capricorn.
I do too. I have a Saturn. My chart has Saturn as a ruling planet right now, as a ruling planet, and I have Jupiter on my Saturn pretty much right now because Jupiter is in Gemini, and I have Saturn and Jupiter opposed in my chart. So in my life, if I try to expand, Saturn goes, nope, not yet. But now with Jupiter on my Saturn, there's been a lot of stuff at my other job happening, a lot of positive stuff. So I'm like, okay, like I've gotten 4 job interviews in the past 3 weeks after having had none for several years.
Damn.
So that's Jupiter going, okay. And then Saturn is a career planet too. So it will technically affect my career. But the thing is, Saturn really, really is a good planet to work with. And I agree with Patrick. The ancient world used to call Saturn a malefic or an evil planet, right? Mainly because he was the furthest one from the sun. He was the furthest one we could see. But we need the discipline of Saturn, just like we need to have the freedom of Jupiter. We need both of them. Like I said, in my case, I have them opposed, which only happens once every 20 years or so. So
Oh, wow.
I guess
You.
I got lucky. Yeah, I mean, I got lucky or disciplined or both, all of it. Anyway, I don't know how to phrase that. But the point of it is that if you take one thing away from me, is that Saturn's job is to help us keep us on the straight and narrow. Also, Saturn has never lost. Let's not forget that Saturn is the Grim Reaper and Father Time. And there's a reason why Saturn rules the knees, ladies and gentlemen, is because we all have to bow to that bastard in the end anyway. That's why. We will all kneel before Saturn at some point, and he's going to decide when it is. And the thing is, Saturn has never lost. So when you have a Saturn return at 28 or 29 years old, and you're feeling the pressure, what you're feeling is Saturn saying, hey, you need to be an adult. You need to be an authority of your own life. You need to make sure you're financially independent. All of those things. That's why you feel the pressure. And you feel it again at 59 and 60, only it hits differently because a lot of people are approaching retirement at that point. Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, Saturn is a really good long-term planet to work with. You just got to know that his stuff doesn't come easy.
Yep.
And one of the things I tell my students is that astrology is a Saturn-ruled discipline. It takes
Is that for everybody around that age that you said they have their Saturn returns?
Yeah, always. Everybody, 28, 29, yes.
I think that's when I decided, like, for sure, too. That's funny that you say that I decided, like, I was always considered an independent contractor, but that was, like, when I fully went on and, like, set my own rates and, like, represented
Yes.
myself, and, like, I started getting my own, like, what I felt I was being paid my worth, because I was telling Rebel, like, being a home health aide and stuff, and even working in facilities, but mainly when I would be working in people's homes, especially people who, like, had, like, issues with, like, seeing, like, if they were blind or they were just, like, too old to, like, know what's going on, so I, like, took care of their bills and stuff for them. I would see the bill statements come in from, like, the agencies I would work at, and then look at my rate of pay and what they're charging my client per hour, and I'm like, "Wait, I'm not even making half of what the hell they're charging these
Mhm.
people, and I'm
Yeah.
doing all this work?" So
Yeah.
then I finally decided, like, "Fuck this." So I started, like, representing my own self. I got certified in all these different things, and I
Mhm.
became my own thing, and so that's funny that you say that, because it was, like, literally around that time where I was just like, "No, I'm gonna start for sure doing it for myself." And I didn't realize that's what it was, but I was like,
That's
"I'm not."
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Saturn basically said, okay, time to value yourself more.
Yeah.
You know, I have seen it happen around 28, 29, 30. People get married, people get divorced, people have their first kid, people buy a house, people get a promotion, or they make
Yeah.
a decision about their career.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
I
so
have,
cool. I didn't know that, because it definitely
yeah,
felt like you said pressure. I was like,
oh
"I'm
yeah,
tired of fucking working so hard for nothing."
yeah. 25 or 26, you start to feel it, and as you get closer to 28, it's
Yeah.
worse. It's worse.
I started working for myself, and I went from working 70 no, I was working, like, 72-hour shifts, like, um, a week, but I was making the most money, and then I had 4 days off versus working 7 days a week, all 12-hour shifts, 16-hour shifts. So I was doing the most in 3 days, but it was technically live-in, so it was considered 72 hours, but it was like
Oh,
I started doing the least, and then I had the most amount of money, and then I was having more time with my family, but I went from working, like, 7 days a week, like I said, 12 and 16-hour days, literally being fucking tired and not making, like, what I should have been making. So, yeah, that's so
yeah.
funny that you say that, because I didn't know that's what that was, but I was definitely like, "I'm so unhappy, and I need to do something now." And
Yeah, and I can honestly tell you, your story is very familiar because
yeah.
it's happened. Similar stories happen to a lot of people. I happen to have one client. She has two kids, but she's having her Saturn return right now, and she is getting divorced.
Oh,
And
wow.
turns out she was married to a Leo guy who doesn't want to do anything,
Wow.
just sit around and play video games. Well, you know,
Oh
and
my
so
god! I don't know them, but I know him. I know a fucking Leo who just plays video games. It's my cousin's baby daddy. Oh my god. It's
well,
crazy.
I don't want to disparage all Leos in the room, but I will say that Leo is the sign that matures the least quickly of all the zodiac signs,
That makes
Okay.
sense.
and so they also love to play. They're like cats.
Yeah.
Leos are like cats, and so if they don't have a lot of discipline, then this guy's fathered 2 kids and he sits around and plays video games all day when the wife works.
Sounds
And
like
he's
my
Fathered one.
like,
He's fathered one. Yeah, same shit. And
so
she does. She literally has like 2 businesses that she does herself, and then she has another job because her businesses, are kind of not, especially with like right now, people, not having income, but like they're not doing as well as they were. So she's got like 3 fucking jobs, and he's playing
mhm.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and so what I would say is when we look at a chart, and somebody asked if the Earth and planets are living conscious beings. Lisa, I don't know that I'd go that far. I do believe the Earth is living, quote unquote, especially because we're living on it. I can't really talk speak to the other planets, but I think of them as living beings in the sense that I feel like they're trying to get messages to us.
Yeah.
Astrology
That resonates for
us to
me.
understand that, and all of them have a personality. And so I used to have, and you'll see it if you go to my link tree, you'll see that I used to have a blog called Metaphysical Meanderings, and in the blog all of the planets were people, and I would have them get together. They'd have Zoom meetings. They'd talk about like what was going on astrologically, what we had to do. Mercury would be the guy with his
Dude,
cell phone in the meeting all the time doing
that's
stuff.
kind of like Steven Universe. Like, I
Yeah.
love that. They all, like the planets and the crystals, they're beings.
They all had their own. They all
Yeah.
did their own thing. So like Mars would be sitting next to Venus, and Mars was this total jock bro, and he would just say things every once in a while, and Venus would kick him under the table, and he'd be like, "Ow, bitch, stop that!" You
Oh, I
know?
gotta go read this.
Yeah, I used to do it. I used to do it quite often. I just got out of the habit during COVID. Like I think COVID just kind of beat it out of me. But I do think of them as people, as living beings. And sometimes the planets would interview me. Like I would go up there and I'd be talking to the sun, and he'd be like, "How have you been?" And the moon would be like, how's your mom? Are you taking care of yourself? Like I would have them all have their own personalities.
Oh, I love that.
And at one point, like the Malefics all got together and they got pissed off, and they were like, let's take this group out. And then they had like I had them do a holiday solstice party one year.
Dude, that would be a good animation thing too. You should
Yeah. I mean, if it and
put that on your YouTube. I would. I feel like I'd binge watch the shit out of that.
And I'm going to tell you how it all started. Okay, it all started because back in 2011, I was trying to write my tarot book, and I was having a lot of trouble. And I noticed in my chart that I had Saturn opposing Neptune, and Neptune is one of your big creativity planets, right? So with me, I would write something. Neptune would be like, "Wow, so inspired," and Saturn would be like, "No one gives a shit. No one's going to read this book." So I'd be like, "Screw it." So I'd stop. And then every once in a while, Neptune would be like, "Come on, believe in yourself." And I'd be like, "Okay." And I'd sit down and I'd write again. And Saturn would be like, "Still not good enough." So I had these 2 opposing forces. And my wife is a published author. And she was like, "Sit down and just write stuff. Like, just start sitting down and writing stuff. Why don't you do a blog?" And I thought, what would I do a blog about? So I did a first blog entry. We were away in New Orleans, and I did a blog entry for that. And then my second blog was called Saturn versus Neptune. And it was them writing letters back and forth. Basically, it was like Neptune was basically like, "Leave John alone. Let him create." And Saturn was like, "He's one of mine, so leave him alone."
Oh, I love that.
And so eventually I had to write Saturn a letter that basically said, "I love you, but step off. You need to step off so I can write this book." And so after that, I started bringing in the other planets because Saturn is my ruling planet. So he started to get a little bit uppity about it. He used to say things like, "I'm the most important planet in John's life, and no one else." He was starting to get a little bit above himself. And so the sun at one point had to come in and be like, "Listen, dude, just because you're his ruling planet doesn't allow you to be a jerk, So try to rein it." And I mean, telling Saturn to rein it in is almost a joke in and of itself. But so that's the genesis of the whole idea. And so I do absolutely think of the planets as I don't want to say living beings, but I do think they influence us tremendously. I think they have a lot to teach us if we're willing to listen. And because at certain times in our lives, we're willing to listen to certain messages more than others, that's where we get the planetary transits. So if you're talking to someone who is in their mid to late 20s, likely they're struggling quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow, that's so
That's-
awesome. And that's on your link tree if I find it?
And that's on my link tree. I'll post my link tree if you wish.
Yes,
I
please.
fucking love. Did you do a link tree yet, Rebel?
No.
It would have. It would be so
God.
convenient for you, dude. Put all your social medias and your YouTube, all that on one spot, and just post your link tree. It's fucking
Yeah.
amazing, and it's
I'll
free.
remember at some point.
Yeah, I really like my link tree.
Me too. I love my link tree.
Did everyone see that or no?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Well, I don't know if
Oh, actually, no. I think it's only on fucking StreamYard. Stupid.
Okay. Well, I can send it to you.
Facebook
if
be
you wanna
cock
post it
blocking
on
for
your-
sure.
If you want to post it on the Facebook after,
Yeah, we'll do that because they're a cock blocker.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah. And Steph, your late 20s were a huge struggle. I get that. I get that. And Dasha, I did have one where Saturn and Mars worked together. I think it was on some kind of. Sometimes what I would do is I would do segments called shameless marketing because no one ever likes marketing their own services. And so I would try to make it funny by saying like, hey, everyone, this is going to be a marketing post. I hope you read it anyway, you know? And so sometimes I would have Saturn, you know, I give Saturn a prepared text to work with. And then Saturn would read the text, and then Mars would show up, and Mars would be like, why the hell am I here?
Mhm.
And Saturn's like, because, oh, thanks, Rebel. Because we were told we had to be here. We're contractually obligated to be here. And Mars is like, F that. I don't care. I should be out banging somebody right now. Like what? You know? So that all grew from Saturn versus Neptune. And eventually I just added in all the other characters.
I love that.
But like I said, when we got into COVID, I started having them do Zoom calls. You know, Mercury would never turn off his phone. He'd always be like tweeting or giving his location, like where he was and what he was doing. He'd be like live streaming the meeting, you know, and the sun would be like, Mercury, I've asked you not to live stream our meetings, you know, they're private, you know. He'd be like, oh, sorry, I gotta put my phone away, you know, and it'd be going ding, 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 you know, because people would be following him. I say all this because they do really influence us. And I do think of them as entities that influence us.
I love that answer. That's great. And Lisa really loves in-depth answers too. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I enjoyed. I mean, I did my first blog in 2011, and I think I did my last one in 2021. So there's like
10 years.
10 years of material in there. And I honestly didn't blog all the time. That was one of the things that Saturn used to get on me about, Lisa, was Saturn used to be like, you need to blog on a schedule. And I was like, hey,
oh, it's not going to work, Rebel.
Right.
Because I just tried to click on it because the tree, it has to have that period in between.
Oh, in that, yes.
Yeah, so it won't. It won't take you to the website.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I would get. There's some days when I'd be struggling with Saturn, and I'd sit down and I'd write a Saturn blog. At one point, I did a blog on Venus and the polite lie because Venus wouldn't tell the truth all the time because she was being polite. Oh, thank you, Rebel.
Yeah.
And so I did one called the Venus polite lie. And then Venus tried to explain to Mercury that, like, well, she really wasn't lying. And Mercury was like, actually, you were because you didn't tell the truth. And she's like, but that's not what I was trying to do. And Mercury's like, I'm just dealing with the facts. You presented them incorrectly, therefore you were lying. So I enjoyed the hell out of that. But there's 10 years of those in there. And I do all kinds of topics on there. Like I address Mercury retrogrades when they come up. I do a bunch of blogs on those. But anything kind of basic that you could consider astrologically, I talk a lot about my own chart in there and things that are going on. Because sometimes the sun would call me in and it'd be like, so, you know, how do you feel with Pluto making an impact to your chart right now? You know? And then Mars, the antagonist, would go around and yell at some of the other planets and call them names. Like, so he would call Mars like old man. He would call He would call Pluto Shrimpy all the time. Like, hi, Shrimpy, how you doing?
Pluto's like, I got something for you.
Yeah, Pluto didn't talk much, but when he did, it was like, okay, you think I'm small? You know, and I mean, and then Pluto would come back with stuff like, I don't know how you're capable of human speech, jockstrap. You know, like, you know. So anyway, please go enjoy those blogs. Like I said, they came at a time when I was just really vibing with a lot of the planets.
I love that.
So it was.
I
great.
just subscribed right now. You're literally the second person I've ever subscribed to, and the only other person is somebody famous.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
subscribed
Yes.
to your link tree, and I'm excited to see all your stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, the link tree has all of my content on it. So
Mhm.
please feel free to go in and take a look. I'm happy to answer other questions that people have. I know somebody asked me a really complicated question. Patrick, a fun alignment, Mars, Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, and a grand cross, each at 0 degrees of the cardinal signs exact orb. Holy crap. That's wow. That is quite an alignment. So what Patrick is referring to, a grand cross, is 4 planets that form a cross. Each planet is 90 degrees from 2 of the other planets and opposing 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And people who have a grand cross often are very powerful. One of the first ones that comes to mind is Bill Maher, who does television, like he's a television commentator. He's got a grand cross. Okay. When you have 4 planets in a setup like that, that's a powerhouse. You can do a lot in the world with that chart. Again, the challenge is it's a closed circuit. So you got to find a way to get the energy out of it. But with those planets, that would be somebody, Patrick, who would be extremely powerful. Like that would be, I would almost be a little bit scared because with Pluto involved, we often have power, issues with power. And so like, I could see pretty much that person as potentially the ultimate dictator.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. But
no more, thank you. No more of those.
yeah, I think we've, I don't want to get political, but I think we've had enough of that in the world generally.
Yeah.
So, ladies, thank you as always. I'm really grateful
so
to be here. I can honestly say that having people listen to me for 2 hours is quite a thrill, considering most of the people who I live with, including my cats, won't do that. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing all of you in 2 weeks. We'll talk about houses 3 and 9. And if after we're done with the houses, if people have specific astrological things they want to look at, deep dive into whatever, I'm open to that. So
awesome.
So happy to have people to talk to.
Brandy did bring up to me, I was talking to her last week. She's not here today, but she'll probably watch the replay. Brought up that she thinks that it would be really interesting for you to explain the traits and characteristics of each zodiac sign.
Okay.
So that people can get more of an understanding of that. She's really into astrology and she's getting deeper into it now. So she loves watching these. She's probably just busy with her kids, but yeah.
Yeah. Happy to do that. I mean, I can certainly take an astrological sign and go over all of the traits, but also we can talk about planets in that sign, which planets work, which ones don't, which one's a struggle. We could certainly do that. I'm absolutely open to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if we're done with the houses, we can certainly do the signs. I probably should have done the signs first, but
yeah.
There, there you go.
Divine timing. Everything's happening the way it's supposed to.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. And unfortunately, when everything happens the way it's supposed to, when I hit my doctor's office late, I still get charged $100.
Oh shit.
Yeah, jerks.
I know, right?
They can make my ass wait for an hour, and yeah, that's.
I hate that shit. I was almost late to the baby thing, and they're like, "You can only be late by 7 minutes." But yeah, I'd be sitting out there waiting for a freaking an hour and a half and shit. Finally get in a room, and I'm in the room for 45 minutes, even longer.
But I will tell you, one of the things that astrology can do for you, even if you learn a little bit about it, is astrology can really help you know who you're dealing with. So I thought of my oncologist. So My oncologist is Gemini sun, and he's a Pisces moon. And he actually gave me his chart. I kind of, I
that's cool.
was, well, I kind of begged, you know.
Oh, okay.
I
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
was,
that's kind of cool that he was like, "Here's my chart."
I kind of no, oh no. No, he's a Gemini guy. He looked at me like I was
My
nuts.
husband's a Gemini. He's a Gemini
He
sun and a
was,
Libra
he was
moon.
like, what? He was almost like, what are you planning to do with that information?
Yeah.
And what I said was, well, you know, like, um, I was like, well, I don't have any doctors in my practice, in my database. So I'd love to have, you know, you in my database. And he was like, yeah, okay, sure. And so what he doesn't know is I looked back at his academic stuff, and right around his Saturn return is when he graduated from medical school.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, here we go. Here we go. So yeah, so when you learn about astrology, even if you only know the signs, you know, you can't always tell, but if you know what sun sign somebody is, you can learn how to work with them a little bit better. And I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
Again, we're generalizing a little bit when we only have the sun, right? And some sun signs are not going to be, not every sun sign is going to be the same, right? You know, as I've said before, like they say all, you know, Scorpios are obsessive nymphomaniacs, and I tell them only on the weekends. You know? But I mean, if you have a little bit of knowledge, it's gonna help you, and you never know when it's gonna come in handy. I'm moving jobs at my full-time job, and I met my new boss today, and I had to tell her what I do outside of work for, you know, for work, and she went, oh, that's really neat. And, you know, and I said, well, when's your birthday? And she said, September 29th. And I said, oh, are you a standard
That's my
leader? She
cousin's
goes,
birthday.
she goes, I don't even know. You should take me out for a beer sometime and tell me. And I was like, perfect.
I
And
love it.
Patrick, I would agree. Synastry charts are really good. So Synastry is putting two charts together and seeing how the people connect.
That's what I did with me and my husband.
Yeah. And how did that
Yeah.
work out?
We are compatible, but we definitely have like things that, you know, will arise for us. And it basically said like, we'll have to choose like eventually if something, especially when it comes to like spirituality, it says at one point like we'll have to choose like if we want to continue to be together or not. But I really think like as compatible as we've been, we'll probably always choose each other. But for the most part, it said that we were compatible, but we definitely have things like hardships in our life that never actually tore us apart, which I'm really grateful for because I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of other people in those situations probably wouldn't have fucking survived. Like we were homeless together, we lived in shelters and shit, like things like that you would think would definitely like be hard on fucking a couple
Yeah.
and with children and shit like that. So
Mhm.
I feel like we've and then like racism in our family and shit, like a lot of shit like
Yikes.
so we definitely have survived a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So when I was
Lisa,
reading that, I was like, "Wow, that definitely does sound like a lot of stuff resonated for sure."
oh, good. Lisa, you were too kind. I can't charm everyone, but I did have someone in a class I was teaching tell me that I could wring enthusiasm from a rock,
Oh,
which
wow.
I took as a very high
I
compliment,
compliment.
Yeah, very.
because I had to teach a class that was extremely dry. And as you've seen, like I can't be dry and straight and teach this stuff. Like
No.
I'm incapable of it.
Yeah.
So
We
That's
enjoy
so
it.
funny that you say that because literally before you even showed up in the back room, me and Rebel were having that conversation about you and how like we weren't gonna read. We were like, we're not gonna do readings. We'll just let John take the thing because he'll make everything super interesting and like you just like everything you just said. We pretty much said that, except we didn't use a rock as an example. But yeah,
yeah, I
that's why I
mean,
was like, damn, we just said that shit.
that was probably the best compliment I've ever received, was when someone, and somebody wrote this on a course evaluation, which was
Oh
even
wow.
better. Like they didn't
Wow.
actually say it. I was like, yeah, right. And right, Steph, poor rock. Yeah, well, one of the lessons that I had to teach during that class was extremely dry. And even then I had to like really push to go, okay, we this has got to be interesting, or the students are just gonna
Yeah.
turn. I never want that. So
Yeah. No.
You make it fun.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I think if you're going to have fun, you have a much better chance of retaining information than if you think the whole thing is boring as hell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just use dry
Right.
humor. Dry humor is
That
my.
too.
I love
Yeah.
dry humor.
Pleasure as always, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody,
you,
for your
yes.
questions. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. If you happen to follow me on Facebook, you'll see my pictures from Vegas next week. And it's
Yeah.
Oh,
gonna
I'll
be,
have to find you because I can't tag you like Rebel was doing. 'cause
Yeah.
it's
we're
gonna
not
be
friends.
it's gonna be at
okay.
least 105 degrees every single day.
Holy
Yay.
shit.
Yeah.
Stay cool. Oh my god.
I would go only at night. That's whenever I ever went to Vegas, it was only nighttime.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, see, I'm one of those people that like I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. Like I want to go out there. I want to feel what 108 is like. Just
Yeah.
for a
I
little
grew
while.
up in it.
Yeah.
No.
So fair enough.
All right,
Fair enough.
everybody. Remember, you are sovereign. You are divine. So stand in your power and let your fucking lights shine. We love you all, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for being with us
Yeah.
tonight.
Love you
We love
guys.
you
Thank you,
guys.
John. We'll see you
Good
guys
night.
tomorrow.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.